It's the Full Court Press with Eric Frandsen and Jason Walker.
Welcome back to the to the show that we're doing right now.
Following the local teams, breaking down the biggest games with in-depth analysis and team interview. Join the show by calling into 435-752-1069 or text 435-339-0321. It's the Full Court Press.
Rose, answer. Yes! Caught! Touchdown! They did it!
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome on in. It's the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM, streaming on 1069thefan.com and the 1069 The Fan mobile app. And ways for you to participate in the show on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321. And previewing a lot of things going on with the Aggies. Utah State basketball on the road for the men tomorrow afternoon at 12:30 in Phoenix, Arizona. Pre-game coverage on our sister station will begin at 11:30. Utah State women, they're at home tomorrow hosting Boise State. That game starts at 7. And the Utah State gymnastics, they're going to be in the Spectrum at noon on Saturday. And I understand that Utah State's got some fun promotions going on. If you attend both of those events, you can win some free stuff. So I encourage you to go support some of the activities going on with Utah State women's athletics with the gymnastics at noon, women's basketball at 7. By the way, speaking of USU athletics, congratulations once again to Manny Martins. He just keeps gathering more trophies.
Yeah.
Recognized as United Soccer Coaches Black Soccer Coach Leadership Team as the Coach of the Year. So another recognition for Manny Martins in the successful season he's had this last year and what he's been doing for Utah State athletics.
Yeah, well deserved stuff for Manny Martins. Deserves all the accolades for what he's done with the soccer team, and it's just going to keep going. There's no signs that they're going to slow down after this next year. They've got a lot of young up-and-coming talent. They brought in some transfers to help replace some of the seniors that they lost. But of course, many of the up-and-coming, underclassmen will help replace those seniors as well. So this should be just as good a team next year.
Yes. So exciting to see what happens for Utah State women's soccer in the future. There was some news earlier this week that USU women's volleyball adding to their coaching staff, putting that staff together. So exciting things happening with USU athletics. But as we were talking about USU men's basketball, they're an important conference game on Saturday at Grand Canyon, their first meeting as Mountain West Conference foes. This is an up-and-coming basketball program, normally speaking, from Grand Canyon. They had success in the WAC, went to the NCAA tournament. Bryce Drew is their head coach. He's been a pretty successful coach. Not having the same level of success so far this season like they've enjoyed when they were in the WAC. But this is a good defensive team, a good team that the Aggies will face tomorrow, not a team to be overlooked. But looking at USU, you've uncovered some interesting statistics about the Aggies, showing that the Aggies are among one of the most streaky teams in college basketball right now. Some of it's good. Some of it can be a bit concerning too, though.
Yeah, basically, there's a bunch of games where the Aggies are overperforming or underperforming based on expectations. You look at games like Colorado State and Boise State, they vastly overperformed. You look at some games like Fresno State or South Florida, they underperformed, sometimes drastically. And some data, there's some from Evan Miyakawa. He's someone that I've referenced a lot in some of the advanced stats. There's also Has the Metrics. This is multiple sources of analytics or sometimes just metrics. For instance, one thing that Evan Mia posted was how many kill shots, so to speak. This kill shot is a 10-0 run. How many kill shots has a team gone on versus how many have they allowed? And the Aggies have both gone on a bunch of 10-0 runs, but also given up a decent number of them. Like, look at their game against Nevada. They had a 10-0 run, but they also allowed an 11-0 run, or maybe it was the other way around. But there was one for each team. And so the Aggies have been a bit volatile that way, where they'll go on these big runs, but they are also prone to giving them up sometimes against certain teams. It's not really come back to bite them because they've been consistent enough that they've been able to stay ahead of the teams, like, Nevada going on an 11-0 run, but the Aggies rally from that and end up getting the win. But just overall, the Aggies have a tendency to overperform a lot or underperform a lot. There's some in the middle, but they're way more volatile than most teams. So the Evan Mia data showed that. Haslametrics, you can just kind of look at a game-by-game basis. Haslametrics has recorded like what Utah State was expected to do based on the metrics versus what they did. And there's a lot of drastic overperform and underperform games. And Haslametrics has the Aggies, I think, rated 359th in team consistency. So that can just be concerning because you don't know when when the bad game is going to strike. Like if the bad game comes against Fresno State, well, the Aggies can overcome that. If the bad game comes against San Jose State, well, they can generally overcome that.
Right, yes.
But one of the bad games, one of the really bad, like if you slightly underperform, well, then you get Nevada. You still win. You still perform good in some areas, but you slightly underperformed on offense while, living up to their defensive acumen. But, you look at South Florida, they underperformed in basically everything. Against Montana State, they underperformed in basically everything. So Utah State has had some games where they underperform and get away with it, but the caliber of team that they're going to be playing on a night-to-night basis is going up. They're going to be at pretty big risk of losing games by double digits if and probably when they have another one of those kind of stinker games. Like look at last year when they lost to UNLV. That was a bit of a stinker, at least on offense. They need to be able to be more consistent. They're not going to be consistent in the way they're going to perform the same way they did against Boise and Colorado State every single game. But just be a little bit more consistent on offense. Don't have the low 70s, mid 60s games. Make sure you're sticking in the high 70s and 80s on offense. And then as a defense, again, you might have a bad game on either, but just don't have them happening so often. Don't be so volatile.
Yeah, and that's where Evan Miyakawa says Utah State is in this group of teams where they have high volatility. They're not as consistent, so they can explode, or they can just go really quiet and allow other teams to go on runs against them. So they're streaky. Utah State can be a streaky team, and that's something that they've got to. It's not like it's urgent, but it is something that probably needs to get addressed if Utah State wants to be able to sustain success. Because if you're streaky, yeah, it's great when you're on, but when you're not, you're opening that door way too wide for other teams to walk through.
Yeah, and that's just the biggest thing is when the lows inevitably happen, because everyone gives up a 10-0 run every once in a while. Everyone misses 6 shots in a row once in a while. You see fans sometimes complain, sometimes our offense just goes cold for minutes at a time, and it's welcome to basketball.
Yeah, watch any game and you're going to see that.
Every team will miss 6 shots in a row or 5 shots or go 4 minutes without scoring. It's limiting the amount of times that happens. It's instead of going scoreless for 4 minutes, go scoreless for 3 minutes. Instead of a 10-0 run, give up a 7-0 run. It's those kind of things. You are inevitably going to have those down moments. It's slowing down the frequency of them and limiting their impact. Now, the Aggies, I think, have mostly done that. They've limited the impact of the times they give up a 10-0 run. And because, if you're a streaky team and you manage to be 15-1 beside that, there's some things you're doing that are overcoming that streakiness. So it's working on some of these things. Again, don't get too down. And find ways to get offense even when you're having a streaky night on offense, which, as I've pointed out before, the Aggies actually have typically done that. They've had games where they can't shoot worth a darn in some areas, but they found ways to score offense anyway in a lot of these games.
Good teams, if you're struggling, they still find ways to manufacture points if you have to.
Because you look at, the Weber State and UTEP game, those games, their shooting percentages from 3 are the type that, last year was putting the Aggies in the 60s in scoring. And like even against Nevada, shooting 33% from three last year would have been a killer in a lot of ways. But through free throws or against Weber State and UTEP, just being able to dominate the paint inside, they've been able to manufacture some of those points. So I don't think the consistency is too much of a concern, but it still is a concern. You don't want to be inconsistent. You don't want to have your underperforming. Like when they do underperform, you want it to be slight. You don't want it to be drastic. And that's the thing that can kind of worry you if you're an Aggie fan, is that when the Aggies do underperform, they tend to do it a lot instead of slightly. But they do have a lot of games where they overperform, which is kind of the nice part about being a streaky team, because streaky teams play incredibly well a decent amount of the time. And that's another reason, why Utah State's been able to have success, is because they'll, in a lot of these games where they have portions where they're underperforming, then they compensate for that by just going nuts for a few minutes.
Yeah, totally blitzing the opponent.
Yeah.
And interesting on these graphs that are out there, some other Mountain West teams appear on these. San Diego State is in that same grouping with Utah State in streaky teams where no lead is safe, but New Mexico is in a grouping along with some other pretty notable teams with that are being classified as strong teams, always dangerous. It says often wins games with big runs. And New Mexico is been a pretty solid team so far this year in some of those things that they do, and pretty balanced in maintaining kind of consistency with who they are.
Yeah, and they're going to be, I think, one of the more dangerous teams. I think there's not enough people noting how good New Mexico is, because they could be similar to what they did last year. Not so much in style, but just the fact that they're a great defensive team with some good offensive players. So they can be a fairly dangerous team. But if the Aggies, of course, if they sharpen up a little bit, then they're likely way better. Because again, the way they've played these first few weeks is just far and away better than anyone in the Mountain West has played on a consistent basis. So for the Aggies, it's about just sharpening things up and staying vigilant. Because again, this is about the time last year where things started to collapse a little bit, especially on defense. So they need to stay vigilant, utilize their depth, and again, just be the best team possible.
435-339-0321 for those who want to chime in on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line. 2603 texting in. With these runs, it's where a player like Mason and his style of play is good. If we miss a couple shots, then Mason needs to attack the rim and get the layup or free throws. And then another follow-up. Any fresh thoughts on Pac expansion?
I haven't really thought about Pac-12 expansion for a while, to be honest. So I
haven't heard anything. It seems to have pretty much died down, if not totally gone quiet, with the two conferences kind of in legal battle with each other.
I'm sure they're working on it. But
when you also look at like who's out there, who could potentially join the Pac-12 that you'd want, and it's a pretty short list, and you could probably name those schools on three fingers, and the likelihood of pulling them away from their current situation is going to be pretty tough.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see any major news about expansion for a while. Not to say that there's definitely not going to be, but I don't think we're going to see anything for a while. So we're in a down period for expansion where they've gotten to the number of teams they need, and so they're going to be taking things pretty slow. But legal battles are also kind of at the forefront as well.
Yeah.
But as far as the comment about the runs, a player like Mason, that's where you can use star players. Like when you've missed a few shots in a row, even if they're by your star players, they're the guys who are going to shake off having missed a few shots in a row, go back out there and hit the shot, create something, get to the foul line, or attacking the rim, getting those easy shots. And that's where I think Mason really helped in that Nevada game. He was aggressive. He had 17 points in that second half.
Oh yeah, he's huge.
7 points start the game, and then 17 in the second half. So he was going after his shot, and MJ Collins had a bit of an off game. So he's had other games where he's been the guy to hit those shots. Sometimes difficult, but I think part of where there's a bit of streakiness is we've seen a tendency for the Aggies to sometimes take dumb shots. You're always going to have a few of them per game, but I feel like the Aggies have had too many. That was something that happened against Nevada where they had a chance to go on bigger runs. They had a chance to slow down some of Nevada's runs, and they would just take a dumb shot. And it's like, you can't be doing that. You have an elite offense. Go out there and manufacture a high-quality shot like you're capable of doing instead of taking a contested wing three-pointer, which is one of the worst shots you can take.
Yeah, it was one of those where you're like, what are you doing? And then it went in, and it's like, okay.
Yeah, some of those.
When that Carson Templin, notably in front of the Nevada bench, hit that corner three.
At least that was sort of open.
Yeah, but generally that's not the shot that the offense is designed to create.
Yeah, but you want to be taking, and some of those shots have gone in, and the Aggies have gotten away with it because they have some shot makers, but you want to be consistently taking smart shots. The Aggies have mostly done, but I feel like they have a few too many dumb shots. And those are the kind of things that can either slow your own run or keep the opposing run going. And then there's also a defensive aspect of that too. But the Aggies have been pretty solid on defense. So,
interesting game tomorrow with Grand Canyon. Some interesting information, some interesting data about Utah State. Will they have any kill shots? Will they give up any kill shots?
I don't know if either team's defense is capable of giving one up in this one. Like maybe the Aggies can pull one off. I don't know. It's interesting. Utah State's offense is capable of it against Grand Canyon's defense. I'm not certain that Grand Canyon will have that against Utah State's defense, but I've been wrong before.
Yeah. So some interesting data about Utah State and currently, what their season has looked like so far. Some good things about the Aggies. A few things not like concerning, but just to be aware of.
And it's something to keep a note on for the time being.
Yeah, hasn't burned them just yet.
Yeah, we'll see if it does. I'm sure that's where I think the Aggies are gonna lose a game that they shouldn't have lost. I mean, technically at this point, every game I guess on the rest of their schedule is when they shouldn't lose.
They've gone through the easier part of their schedule, the Mountain West.
Yeah. 2603 saying it seems like the defense is playing better and being aggressive, but not overcoming too much and giving up open wing threes. Still it happened, but it seems like it's happening less than last year. Yeah, I think they're just better on the perimeter in terms of staying in front of defenders and, switching well. There are times where they're playing man-to-man defense. Sometimes they're in their zone. I think they're playing a lot more man this year than they were last year, and I think that's helping. Because last year there was a point, and to be honest, it was around right here where teams just seemed to I think it was a combination of figuring out the defense and the Aggies running out of gas. I know I defended the system a lot last year, and I think it has its merits, but maybe I was just wrong in that sense because the coaching staff felt like it wasn't right for them. They've gone to play more man-to-man than they've done the matchup zone, although they still run it and they are running principles of it. I want to see if this team will have the same run out of gas moment. I think they're a deeper team this year, and so I think that'll help. But it is really interesting. The more I look at it, it's like this is like the exact same time last year. They were riding high, and then they kind of fell off the horse, so to speak.
Yeah, because defensively late in the year, it just looked like they were running around like chickens with their heads cut off, and teams were just passing the ball and just finding wide open 3-point shots.
Yeah. And that's not happened very much at all this year. They've got a good defensive field goal percentage on 3-pointers inside the paint as well. So it's about keeping that up and obviously make sure you do it in this game. Even though it's not an elite an elite offense with Grand Canyon, you got to keep up that same energy and bury them, hold them to 60 points on their own court. And then obviously that opens up a lot of room for error with your offense, whether you have a 90-point game the way you've done in half your Mountain West games, or whether you have a 75 or an 80-point game. Any of those would do pretty well if you manage to hold a team to 60 points.
True. I got to take a time out here in the Full Court Press. There was a question about the future Pac-12. What about some of those other teams that will be joining and be a part of that future Pac-12 in basketball? How are they doing right now? We'll give an update on those schools coming up next here on the Full Court Press.
It's cold outside, but you can keep warm inside with a quality-built, super-efficient York furnace. Count on a furnace from York because it's backed by the strongest warranties available. Call Advanced Heating and Air Conditioning, your local York dealer, at 752-7272. Online at advancedheating-ac.com.
We're not comfortable until you are. Advanced Heating and Air.
Old McCarroll has a farm and appliance farm.
With down-home country prices and big city selection.
E-I-E-I-O. When you're looking for a friendly spot to drive a little and save a lot, hey, Old McCarroll has a farm. An appliance farm. No overhead, but lots of country charm. See Daryl's Appliance in beautiful downtown Benson.
It's ski season, Cache Valley. This is Mark at The Sportsman, where we mount bindings. If you need bindings mounted to your skis or snowboards, in most cases, we can do it in 48 hours or less. That's right, 48 hours or less. At The Sportsman, we can also tune, sharpen, wax, and repair your skis or board so they are ready for the season. Usually, we can get those done in 48 hours as well. For 73 years, we have been taking care of skis and boards only at The Sportsman on Main Street in downtown Logan with tons of parking in the back.
You're on your way to work when that little light pops on. The one that says, hey, you need service. But who has time to sit in a waiting room? West Motor Ford will pick up your vehicle from home or work, service it, and bring it right back. Pickup and delivery are completely free within a 35-mile radius. That's anywhere from Malad to Montpelier, Hiram to Tremonton. Plus, get $25 off any repair over $250. Schedule your free pickup and delivery at westmotorford.com or call 208-852-3853.
Hey, it's JD here, and with the new year comes that familiar feeling of wanting a fresh start. We all make resolutions: eat better, be healthier, do better, but for some, the resolution that matters most is getting sober. That's why I want to tell you about Renaissance Ranch. They specialize in a faith-based, clinically proven addiction recovery. They know what it takes to break free for good. Call or visit renaissanceranch.net and make this the year that addiction no longer controls your story. Renaissance Ranch, hope, healing, and recovery.
The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Right now, Young Power Sports in Logan has a massive selection of snowmobiles. Every sled is on sale of various different types, like the mountain trail, crossover. Those sleds are all on sale. New, non-current inventory is all priced to move at Young Power Sports Logan. Get out and ride. They sponsor our text line, which is 435-339-0321. And 7854 texting in. Y'all are dancing around the key to this year's success. There is depth, legitimate depth. It allows Coach Calhoun to be more aggressive defensively and allows the team to be more aggressive down the stretch. I don't know that we've been dancing around that. Both Jason and I have mentioned this several times about the depth of this team, which allows key guys not to have to play as many minutes, and they don't have to work as hard. So I don't know that we've danced around this. I think we've made that pretty clear, but you're right. Depth is a big key. And I think that will be the key moving forward if Utah State wants to have sustained success, because they do have that versatility. They do have extra guys they can draw on. Because last year you had your starters and maybe one or two guys off the bench that played extended minutes, and there just wasn't a lot of trust in too many other guys coming off the bench. And that got tighter and tighter as the season went on. We're deep into the season, and we still see a deep rotation coming off the bench.
Yeah, so you're going 10 guys deep that have played basically every game and are playing at least 10 minutes per game. And last year, you went 9 guys deep, and some of those guys, not as many minutes for some of those guys. Mason was playing more minutes. It's not a massive difference, but there is a difference. And
every minute in at basketball at this level, every minute saved pays big dividends on the body in late February and through March.
Yeah. And I think also the fact that they have more length, like they were playing Dexter Acano at power forward most of the back end of the season. Like that, and they were basically playing two bigs, Aubin Gadarazzi, Carson Temple, and Isaac Johnson would play a couple of minutes, but now they're pretty consistently playing a 3-man big rotation as opposed to like 2.5.
Mm-hmm.
They're in the wings are bigger, so they're having a bit of an easier time. They're not getting banged up as much, playing completely out of position. And so I think it's overall helping. And so that's what I would hope for the Aggies, that they are, truly a deeper team. But there is also just going to be a lot of adjustments, I think, that they're going to have to change. Things that, because Calhoun and his staff, they work through a lot of things to try and change things about this team. And I think they've done a pretty good job. They changed their personnel. They have better defenders on this year's team. Guys like Colby King, MJ Collins, like Mason and Drake are both better defenders than they were last year. They've made personal improvements. So think of defensively how much better the guard line is. Because last year, Mason, Ian Martinez, Dexter Acano, Drake Allen, Dayton Albright, like they were good defensively, but had some weaknesses. This year's guard line on the you had Jordy Barnes in there as well. He struggled a lot defensively. And this year it's, Mason, who's playing at a defensive player of the year level. MJ Collins is playing at a solid defensive level. Drake Allen and Colby King are both really hard to play against if you're an offensive player. And even the guy coming off the bench, Elijah Perryman, he's a pest on defense. And so this team has better individual defenders. I think they've improved the scheme, and then they have a little bit more depth than they did last year. And while maybe each of those is a small change in and of itself, they add up. And I think that's where, you can expect this team to very likely continue their defensive excellence through conference play. Whereas last year, they were an elite defensive team in non-conference and then a bad defensive team in conference play. And so they just need to make sure they hit that transition and hit it well.
Yeah, good point. Speaking of basketball in the future for Utah State, headed to the Pac-12 next year, and thought we'd look at what are those teams doing right now who will be conference mates in the Pac-12 next year. So besides schools currently in the Mountain West making that transition, the other schools that Utah State will be facing in the future, 3 of them are in the West Coast Conference right now. Well, Washington State and Oregon State have a scheduling agreement. They're basically in the West Coast Conference for basketball.
I think they're literally in the West Coast Conference for all sports.
For pretty much football. Everything but football. And then Washington State and Oregon State, plus Gonzaga in the West Coast Conference, and then Texas State, who is in the Sun Belt?
Yeah, Sun Belt.
Sun Belt. So Gonzaga continues to be excellent. Only one loss on the season, ranked 9th nationally, number 4 in the net. Still playing excellent basketball right now. They played Washington State last night, blew them out 86-65. And that's the type of season the Cougars have had. They're 3-3 in conference play, but 145 in the net, 7-11 overall. Oregon State, 203 in the net, 10-10 overall. And Texas State, 265 in the net, 8-9 record overall right now.
And that worries me. Like Texas State, their basketball program hadn't been spectacular. The big thing that really helped them come over to the Pac-12 was the fact they've been solid in football, for the Sun Belt. But in basketball, they're a team that's danced around being 500. They had their last 20-win season was back in the 2021-22 season. And maybe that was expected with Texas State, but like Oregon State and Washington State, those are programs that have had good men's basketball teams in the relatively recent past.
Mm-hmm.
But the last 2 years, they've been pretty iffy. And this just goes back to my concerns over, are Oregon State and Washington State going to end up becoming bottom feeders in a conference they thought they were going to dominate because, well, they're the old guard of the Pac-12. Because they don't know how to do things on a smaller budget, whereas like it's entirely possible that Texas State ends up outpacing Oregon State and Washington State because they've been able to have a decent amount of success on a small budget. You're going to hand them a bigger budget. It's probably going to help them a lot more in football. We'll see if basketball catches up. But it's entirely possible that Texas State could outpace Oregon State and Washington State because of how they know how to run a program versus Oregon State and Washington State having to completely relearn.
Right, because for so long they were used to just receiving big fat checks from the Pac-12.
Yeah.
They didn't have to work as hard on the ground level, and now they're having to learn that the hard way.
Yeah, and so they have to downsize all their operations, do more with less when they've been doing less with more. And so it's really concerning seeing what's happening to them in football and basketball because we're seeing the results of that downsizing. They can't handle it. They are not handling it right now. Can they figure it out? You hope so. Otherwise, they're going to be, as I said, they're going to become bottom feeders in the conference that they like to think they own.
Yeah, not very good basketball right now. If the two conferences were to merge, Gonzaga would be number 1 right now. Washington State would be 10th.
Yeah.
And then Oregon State and Texas State are below that. Texas State is above Air Force, so give them that. But they're behind San Jose, and Oregon State is just a little ahead of San Jose. So that gives you an idea of kind of where they're at in the standings. Washington State is right around where Fresno is.
Yep.
So, yeah, at least there's Gonzaga. And at least there's going to be Utah State and San Diego State. So there's going to be the top level of the future Pac-12 looks good. The middle of the pack looks okay.
We'll see.
But it still has some bottom feeders.
Boise and Colorado need to start picking up the pace.
Yes.
Because San Diego State and Utah State are doing fine. Gonzaga, even though they had a rough 2-year patch, and by rough 2-year patch meant they were ranked in the 20s instead of the top 10.
Top 10.
That was struggling for Gonzaga. But they've bounced back this year. We'll see how the rest of their season goes because they just had a big injury to one of their key players, Brandon Huff, who's one of their stars. They still have Graham Ike, if you remember him.
Yeah, former Wyoming guy.
After a couple of years where I think he was injured 1 year at Wyoming. I think there might have been another waiver season or something like that. He's had a weird and elongated career, but he's balling out for them. But they are losing one of their star players, so we'll see if things get a little bit shaky, and we'll see if they get him back for a potential March Madness run. But still, Gonzaga as good as they've ever been.
Yeah, St. Mary's, they're undefeated in conference play. Santa Clara only has one loss. So there are a couple of teams still looking pretty strong in the West Coast Conference, but Washington State and Oregon State not really looking that great as of yet, and Texas State also struggling in their conference so far. But the Mountain West, will they, how many teams will they get into the tournament? Will the top teams separate themselves? Can 3 get in? Can New Mexico, San Diego State, and Utah State be the 3 that get there? Will a 4th team emerge? I don't know right now. At this point, it's not really looking like that unless Nevada really goes on a run.
I don't really think it's possible for a 4th team to get in. I can see 3 by virtue of 2 teams pulling away. Pick 2 of Utah State, San Diego, and New Mexico. One of them would probably have to be Utah State because there's a lot of ground for New Mexico and San Diego State to make up for both of them to do it. But pick 2 of those 3. The team that doesn't get an at-large, they manage to win the conference tournament. But I just don't see 4.
Yeah, it doesn't look like the conference is strong enough statistically to get that kind of recognition. Right now, Nevada's sitting at 72 in the net. They'd have to be in the top 50, I think, to be in that conversation. It's going to be hard for them to get there. Got to take another time out here in the Full Court Press. Still love to hear from you if you want to chime in. 753. Are
you listing off your own phone number?
No, I was actually calling out the KVNU studio line.
Oh, were you?
435-339-0321. Text that number. Don't text whatever number I was giving. 435-339-0321 to be a part of the Full Court Press.
Markets are unpredictable, but reaching your financial goals shouldn't be. Adams Wealth Advisors is dedicated to helping you navigate these challenges and ensure you're prepared for every outcome. Whether your financial plan revolves around advanced tax planning, estate planning, business strategies, retirement planning, or investment management, Adams Wealth Advisors team of CPAs, CFPs, and CFAs will provide the expertise needed to help you reach your financial goals. Visit AdamsWealthAdvisors.com. That's AdamsWealthAdvisors.com for more information or to schedule an appointment.
New news from the Riverwoods Conference Center. All-inclusive pricing is now available for every occasion. Imagine your dream wedding, your daughter's quinceañera, corporate retreats, family parties, business conferences, or expos. Whether you're searching for a small private area, a breathtaking outdoor reception by the river, or an event that accommodates up to 2,000 people, the Riverwoods Conference Center makes event planning effortless with its perfect combination of beauty, service, catering, and now all-inclusive pricing. Visit theriverwoods.com or call 750-5151 for more information today.
If you're coming to Logan and want a real value near USU, this is it. Say Aggie 79 and stay at the Baum Hotel for just $79 a night. Right in downtown Logan, you'll find clean, spacious rooms and the kind of friendly service that keeps people coming back. Free continental breakfast, free Wi-Fi, and seasonal outdoor pool, all without paying big city prices. $79 rooms with Aggie 79 at the Baum Hotel. Call 435-752-5220. That's 752-5220 and lock it in today.
Hi, it's Emily, and here at Serenoni, we start with the thread, literally. We knit all of our own fabrics so we can control the softness, the weight, and the quality. So your blanket isn't just soft at first, it stays soft, strong, and beautiful over time. From our softest minky to lush, stretch, cotton muslin, and waffle, we create comfort that holds up, from newborn snuggles to movie nights. Established in 2006 right here in Logan, come experience the quality for yourself at our store on 10th West next to iFit. Serenoni, wrapped in comfort, gifted with love.
Talking the sports you care about. The Full Court Press on Sports Talk Radio, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Eric Frandsen, Jason Walker, 435-339-0321. That's the text line to chime in, be a part of the program. Let us know what your thoughts are ahead of Utah State's game at Grand Canyon tomorrow afternoon, 12:30 tip-off on FS1. A couple other games going on in the Mountain West. In fact, only one game in the conference schedule tonight, if I'm not mistaken. And it's a big one. Colorado State at Boise State. Who needs this more? Colorado State at 2-4, Boise State 1-5, 8:30 on FS1. Boise is favored. Both teams kind of underperforming based on what we thought they'd look like this point of the season.
Yeah, though Colorado State's can be attributed to them losing their best player for a couple of weeks. If they don't lose Kyle Jorgensen, they probably still lose the game to Utah State. They probably don't lose it by as much. And they probably get at least one more win, I think. They'd probably be 3-3 at least in Mountain West play, I think. Maybe even 4-2. Like, star players can have a big impact.
Mm-hmm.
So theirs can be explained away a little bit, though I think there was still a bit of a downfall coming for Colorado State after their non-conference because of their defense. Like, they are one of their defense is roughly on par with like San Jose, not quite as bad as Air Force, but it's a lot closer to being them, to their defense, than it is to being like anything in the middle of the pack. So they had a bit of that coming anyway, but you can still explain some of that with them losing their best player. And maybe part of their defensive struggles came from missing Rashawn Mbemba for the entire season up until I think he came back in the last couple of games. So some of theirs can be explained away. Boise State's just cannot. They haven't had any major injuries. They've had to have a couple guys banged up a little bit. Javen Buchanan has been banged up a little bit, and he's not quite been himself. But like, if you talk about who needs this one more, it's Boise State. If they lose this one, mentioned this yesterday, it'll be the first time they've lost 3 home games in a row since I graduated high school, which is actually a long time ago. Those of you who think I'm really young.
It's been a minute.
It's been a minute, since 2012. And you go to 1-6, they'd be 500, which I don't know when the last time was that Boise State was 500 around this time of the year, but it's probably been since roughly 2012, I'd imagine. It's
probably that same era, yeah.
Basically when they came to the Mountain West, because as I pointed out before, basically every team that's come from the WAC to the Mountain West, they struggle in their first year, and I believe 2012 was that first year for them. So they've typically not had these bad seasons at all outside of like 1 year when they joined the Mountain West and had a bit of a transition period. So Boise really needs this. mostly to just save face and save a little pride. They're not going to the NCAA tournament. They're not going to the CBI and NIT or whatever. A lot of that is completely out the door. So it's about salvaging as much pride as you can, and then for a lot of these underclassmen, for Leon Rice, trying to make sure that you don't repeat this next season. But I think they kind of desperately need it just for that sake.
Yeah. Colorado State, though, too, is a team that looks like they could be a little bit better. So for the good of the conference.
Or are we doing for good of the... You asked which one needed it more. That's the question I answered. Now you're changing the question on me and doing this whole for the good of the conference
For the good of the conference.
We're not for good of the conference. It's still Boise State because they're the one that's closest to being quad one still, I think.
That's true. They're 85 in the net. Colorado State is 95.
Yeah, so it
would be better. Boise State does have the better overall resume and the better overall metrics.
And I guess at this point, it's just a matter of which team do you trust to be able to get to that 75 mark? Which one do you trust more to be able to do that? If you think Boise State's capable of doing that, where they're technically still closer, but they kind of suck right now. Colorado State, they feel like they're more likely to have a resurgence because you can kind of intuitively see where that resurgence would come from. Kyle Jorgensen, he's been questionable. He was questionable last game, made the trip. He's questionable for tonight. I don't know if there's been a report today confirming whether or not he would play. That might just end up being a game time decision. See what happens if he walks onto the court wearing his game duds. So you can kind of imagine Colorado State being more likely to make that run. So honestly, I don't know if there's a definitive for the good of the conference because I feel like you can make an argument for either. It just depends on what you believe about both of these teams. And there's a logic for all of them. I don't think Boise is going to continue to be this bad the rest of the season. And so you could argue that, but there's also a great logical through line for Colorado State. Even though they're 10 spots behind in the net, they could be a more likely team to have a resurgence.
It's more likely that they could catch up and make up the gap. Kyle Jorgensen, he did travel with the team in their last game at Fresno State. He didn't play. But he did travel and was seen working out with the team before the game.
Yeah.
So don't know if that means he's going to be available tonight, but he's on that trajectory.
Yeah, he traveled with the team for the Fresno game. So he's kind of maintaining that. So just something to keep an eye on there. 8968, we got a couple of texts kind of on this topic saying, I would say Boise State needs the game worse. If they lose this game, especially in a big way, they may fold up. Yeah.
It's true. I mean, and the Boo Birds will come out and people start calling for Leon Rice.
They're already starting.
I mean, it's to some degree, but
they do that every year after every game they lose, fire Leon Rice. Every game. They could be 22-0. They'd lose a game and say fire Leon Rice.
Yeah. They don't know ball very well.
They could be undefeated in the national championship game. They'd lose and they'd say fire Leon Rice.
4781, Boise State sucks. Their student section was outnumbered by ours last week in their own arena.
Yeah. Don't ever let them live that down.
They're trying to hand out free stuff tonight.
First 7,000 fans in the arena. I saw somebody say, what are they going to do with the other 6,995 shirts? I don't think they'll have 7,000 people in that arena, but you probably have to have an Idaho ID for that.
Yeah, they didn't clarify that.
Yeah, they didn't clarify that. So if you're a Utah State fan, show up in a Utah State shirt, get one of those orange shirts, see what happens.
Tomorrow, it's a full day in the Mountain West, starting with Utah State and Grand Canyon at 12:30 on FS1. At 2, it's Nevada at Air Force. Nevada favored by 14.5. UNLV is at San Jose. No line set on that one, probably because UNLV is involved. That's at 3.
Do they not set lines on UNLV?
I don't think they do. And then at 5 o'clock, it's Wyoming at Fresno State. Wyoming favored by 2.5. Two teams that are 2-4 in conference play. And then the nightcap, which I think will be a really good one. 6 o'clock on CBS Sports Network. New Mexico at San Diego State. Aztecs favored by 4.5. This is a battle for to be in position for to still be at the top, or if not the second place in the conference standings.
Yeah, that's a big one for both teams. For New Mexico, it's proving grounds for they've had a stretch these last few games where they've been as dominant as Utah State in a lot of ways. Can they keep that up? This is kind of the first heavyweight bout. We've had a couple of false starts in terms of games we thought were going to be heavyweight bouts. Utah State, Colorado State, Boise, San Diego State. Like we thought those were going to be the title bouts. Turns out they weren't. This one, now that we're a few games in and we have a little bit more clarity, this is definitely going to be one of those games that's determining who wins the regular season Mountain West title.
Eric Olin returns to San Diego. Not really the same venue, but
yeah, I don't know if that's really a storyline for him.
He's spent time in that community.
He's returning to the state of San Diego, Eric, not the city of San Diego.
No, it's the state of San Diego. So anyway, that's a really interesting game to watch. The Utah State game will be done, so that's one that you shouldn't have too many other conflicts to keep an eye on that one for what's going on in the Mountain West. Can San Diego State continue their run that they've been on? They seem to have been making some improvements, but New Mexico is also playing some really good basketball right now. Just how good are the Lobos? So that game at 6 o'clock on CBS Sports Network Saturday night. Got to take a timeout and got to say goodbye to Jason. He's got a high school game to call tonight. So we'll give a run through of who's playing tonight and where and how you can follow along. Also look at what the schedule looks like for the NFL playoffs, which you can hear here on The Fan throughout the weekend, and what those games look like also, and interesting storylines going on for those games. Of course, if you want to weigh in, we always love to hear from you on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line, 435-339-0321.
Happy New Year! You survived the holidays. This is Jarek at Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Did you meet the family during the holidays? How was that? Is it time to go engagement ring shopping? Valentine's Day is coming, but why wait? Do it now. Bring her in and view our collection of over 3,000 rings. With many of them being our own custom designs, I know we will find the perfect one. At Jarek's Fine Jewelry, we make it special. So come make it Jarek.
Jarek's Fine Jewelry. Make it special. Make it Jarek's.
Les Olson IT structured cabling is second to none. Tired of old and inefficient cabling? Have an upgrade or remodel planned? Building a new network from the ground up? We offer the very best in low voltage cabling installation, including data, phone, fiber optic, and more. Ask us how to get your free consultation today.
Les Olson IT.
Winter's rolling in. Cold, snow, wind, but Mother Nature can't cancel us. At Top Shed, we build custom sheds year-round, right on site in northern Utah, southern Idaho, and Wyoming. Blizzards, freezing temperatures, doesn't matter. We don't shut down. We show up, we build. So if you need storage, workplace, or a backyard upgrade, don't wait for spring. Top Shed builds in any weather. Top Shed, making sheds great again. Call 435-760-7766 or visit TopShedUSA.com.
This is Ryan at My Mattress. A few years ago, I saw this sign hanging in a gas station. It said price, quality, service. Pick 2 out of the 3. Now, it's funny, and I did laugh, but at My Mattress, we don't even want to do business unless we can do all 3. Price, quality, and service. We have a 90-day sleep guarantee, 90-day price guarantee, and we will answer the phone if you have a warranty concern. At My Mattress, we deliver, we have financing, we strive to be price, quality, and service every day. Isn't it time to sleep exceptionally? Only at My Mattress.
It doesn't matter who you root for. The Full Court Press has all the high school sports covered. The Full Court Press. Connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and online at 1069thefan.com.
Welcome back to the Full Court Press. Got a couple texts coming through. If you want to weigh in, we always love to hear from me on the Young Power Sports of Logan text line.
Don't look ahead, there's stormy weather.
435-339-0321. If you want to text in, 4781 texting in. What's funnier, talking about the Boise State fiasco, about the students and the free tickets. So what's funnier is they gave our students free tickets. They still gave them free tickets after all was said and done on the upper bowl. That's awesome. I did not hear that. And then also, these doofuses, don't they know that San Diego, Fresno, and Boise aren't states? Yes. Never. That joke never grows tired. 8968 texting in. It would be fun for someone to show up in a Boise shirt over your Aggie shirt. After you get your ticket or whatever, go to the restroom, whip it off, and leave it in the stall for better purposes. Maybe the best use of that shirt in that location. So, but yeah, big games tomorrow in the Mountain West. There's an interesting one tonight. Two teams that are a little desperate, not performing like they thought they would be. Both teams thought they'd be at the top, or at least in the top 3 or 4. Certainly haven't been there so far this season for various reasons, more for health reasons for Colorado State than Boise. They just underperformed. But that game in Boise tonight, Broncos are favored by 5.5, 8:30 on FS1. And then a busy day tomorrow, starting with Utah State at 12:30, taking on Grand Canyon in Phoenix. And we'll have pregame coverage starting at 11:30 a.m. on KVNU with J.D. Walker, Stockton Jukes, and Jalen Moore. Full play-by-play action starting at 12:30. And then as soon as the coaches' comments are done in the post-game, they'll flip it over to KVNU Aggie Call and take your reactions to what took place in Phoenix. 2 o'clock, Nevada's at Air Force. 3 o'clock, UNLV is at San Jose. At 5, Wyoming is at Fresno. And at 6 o'clock on CBS Sports Network, New Mexico at San Diego State. Busy night tonight in high school basketball. It's Region 11 action. It's the northern schools versus the Tooele Valley area schools. Plus one game. It's two teams from here facing each other. So Skyview is at Bear River. And a couple different ways to hear that. We'll have the Skyview broadcast here on The Fan tonight with Hurricane John Newbold on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. Video streaming on CashValleyDaily.com. For the Bear River coverage, that'll be on 104.9 The Ranch with Trent Carter and Josh Tyre on the call for that one. So two broadcasts of that game. All other games involved are the Cache Valley area teams versus Tooele Valley area teams. Mountain Crest hosting Stansbury. That's going to be on 107.7. Cody Olson and the coach John Olson on that call. Ridgeline taking on Deseret Peak. Dave Simmons and Nick Zollinger on that call on 104.5 The Ranch. Logan hosting Grantsville. Even though they're in 3A, it's still Cache Valley versus Tooele Valley. That's going to be Jason Walker on the call with Adam Lurcher on KVNU. And then Green Canyon hosting Tooele with Stockton Jukes and Coach Terrell Baldwin on 100.9 Light FM. So a lot of high school games going on tonight on our family of radio stations and video streaming on CashValleyDaily.com. Watch it on your tablet, on your phone. If you're at a game, you want to check in on another, we'll have those games streaming tonight on Cache Valley Daily. So lots of different ways to follow those games as there's a bunch of these teams are all kind of in the middle. But this is an important stretch. They're starting to face each other now for the second time. And can they create some separation or get revenge after what happened the time before? So that's what our schedule looks like tonight on Cache Valley Daily and on our family of radio stations. And, of course, if you missed a game, you can always go back and watch the replay. All those games are archived on Cache Valley Daily. Just go find the school of choice. And on the showcase, just scroll down. You can go back and watch old football games, too. But tomorrow is also a busy day for the NFL. We'll have a football doubleheader, playoff doubleheader here on The Fan. Also on Sunday with the NFL playoffs underway at 2:30 is when the Bills kick it off against the Broncos in Denver. And then it's the later game will be the 49ers at the Seahawks. Earlier we talked about renewed rivalries or new rivalries in sports. This is one that's been pretty spicy over the last little while. The 49ers and the Seahawks took a little bit of a break, but it's certainly been renewed this season. And Seahawks are favored in this one. 49ers have had some really bad injuries to some key guys. So it makes sense that Seahawks would be favored in this one. But we'll see if San Francisco can overcome that. So the Saturday doubleheader is the Bills at Broncos at 2:30. And then the 49ers at the Seahawks at 6. And on Sunday at 1, it's the Texans at the Patriots A lot of red, white, and blue there in those logos for those two teams. And then at 4:30, it's the Rams at the Bears. And so we'll have both of those games on Sunday here on The Fan, your local home for what's going on in the NFL playoffs, leading all the way up to the Super Bowl. We'll have extensive coverage here on 106.9 FM, 1390 AM throughout the NFL playoffs. So AFC, NFC matchups on Saturday, and then another AFC and then NFC matchup on Sunday, with the AFC games first, followed by the NFC games in the afternoon and early evening. So, fun to see what happens with these games. We've got some young up-and-coming players. Certainly, you look at the quarterback situations in Texas with the Texans and the Patriots, but both of those teams having a bit of a resurgence because of their defenses as well. Texans have been able to get by with great defense. Their offense has been a little bit questionable, but will they pull off another big win and surprise people? Drake May has had a great season in the conversation among MVPs. And then certainly what the Bears did in the fourth quarter against the Packers last week. Can they repeat that and have that a little bit more sustained against the Rams, who, as the visiting team, is favored? All other games, the home team is the favored team, except for this one. Bears were not favored last week either, though it was on their home field, and they still found ways to win, beating Green Bay with a fantastic finish. Can they do that again against the LA Rams Sunday, late afternoon and early evening, with Matt Stafford doing well, and the Bears, some younger players standing out. Great quarterback battle that could be brewing there between those two teams. So that's what's on tap on The Fan on Saturday and on Sunday. Because of those, there's going to create some conflicts with some of the other things that we normally have here on Saturday afternoon. Usually, it's got the Jazz. I got to check our broadcast calendar, but I think we're taking the NFL playoff games. But Jazz have a rebound match against the Mavericks. Jazz were in Dallas earlier just the other night. Cooper Flagg rolls his ankle in the second quarter. Jazz still lose handily. Jazz will face Dallas once again on Saturday in Dallas, and that starts at 3:00. So the Jazz are kind of finishing up their road trip. And then in the NHL, Utah Mammoth, well, they've been one of the hottest teams in the NHL since the turn of the calendar, since January 1st. They are 6-2. And it's not just that they're winning, it's how they're winning. They've outscored their opponents 28-16 in that stretch of games. Saturday afternoon, also at 3 in Salt Lake City, they host the Seattle Kraken. So busy Saturday with a lot of different things going on with the NFL playoffs. Jazz are in Dallas to take on the Mavericks, and Mammoth hosting the Kraken, besides the NFL playoff games going on. So there'll be no shortage of things to tune into and watch and listen to as you're out and about on Saturday and Sunday. Take your radio with you or pull up the app and have it handy. Of course, if you want to tune in to find out what's going on with the Utah State Aggies, turn into KVNU tomorrow morning at 11:30 with J.D. Walker, Stockton Jukes, and Jalen Moore as they'll preview the matchups and the final storylines with Utah State at Grand Canyon. And then on 107.7 FM later Saturday night, it'll be the Utah State women's basketball team taking on Boise State with Ajay Salveson on the call. See if Utah State can get back to winning at home. A very strong home record, hoping for a good home crowd to cheer them on as well. And Utah State Gymnastics, they're also in action hosting Southern Utah Saturday at noon. Have a great weekend, everybody. We'll recap it all on Monday.
Northern Utah and Southern Idaho's home for sports. KLGN Logan, 106.9 FM, 1390 AM. The Fan.